Hello, Luba here from New York City. I'm a makeup artist for over 25 years. I've done a lot of TV, a lot of fashion, a lot of special events. I've done my makeup a lot. I've learned a lot how to save time, and that's what I want to share with you today. There is a little moisturizer on my face, and I regularly exfoliate my skin, so I like that natural shine. And exfoliation is as important as moisturizing because there are a lot of buildups in dead skin cells on the surface that you want to get rid of rather than wasting more moisturizer on trying to soften the skin. So I recommend to do it at night, so you wake up with like more rested skin, and of course you can use your serum after exfoliation, or even let the skin breathe and put it in the morning. That's more like a personal choice and your own experience with skincare. So my face cream will penetrate a little better if I just leave it on while I'm doing my eye makeup. And I'm gonna start with eyeshadow base. This one happens to be by Too Faced. It has just a little bit of color, which will neutralize that discoloration on the eyelid. And if you like to use concealer to cover more discoloration, just be light-handed or mix it with a little bit of cream or even like a eyeshadow base, because the skin is so thin around the eyes, you don't want to build up too much. It will crease inevitably. So I'm using just a regular concealer brush, anything that looks similar to that. The size really doesn't matter. We'll do it. And the finger oils, unfortunately, will make the makeup to run much faster. So it's better to use a tool. And the brushes, the concealer brushes don't really absorb. So they have a very, very fine tip usually. See the little tiny little bristles on the end, so that fills in all the tiny little crevices on the skin surface. I hold it slightly angled. My skin, it's a little more droopy than a 20-year-old, so that's why I do it with short little strokes. Make sure that I get everywhere in there, and it's hard if you try to do it this way, holding the brush 90 degrees. So it's much better to angle it, and basically all you need to use is that little tip of the brush. The length of the bristle really kind of works on the softness rather than you put product in there and kind of waste it. So I also choose a very basic eyeshadow palette, and you can use darker colors, you can use more artificial colors, greens and purples and blues, and anything of your choice, of course. This is by Too Faced. It's called Natural Matte. And I'm going to start with just a little bit of light color and a soft fluff eyeshadow brush. The inner corner of the eye, it's really the darkest point at the on your face. So I like to kind of lighten that up a little bit. I don't like to go under the brow because my lids are too heavy, so it will make it even more prominent. It will accentuate that heaviness. I like to kind of cover the end a little bit, so as you can see, the eyeshadow should go up when we contour the eye. So I don't want it to go down, and this one kind of gives me a frame. So I don't go with the light color all over. I try to save time and product and just, do that very quick. So it's nice to have a color that it's more like a medium, what I call it. If you only have two eyeshadows, one it's a little darker, the other one lighter, you can mix the two, create your medium color. Just gonna use a very soft taupe medium color from the palette. And this brush, it's also fluffy, but it happens to be a little more flat. It's a very famous brush, number 217 by MAC. And anything similar to that will help to contour the eyelid. So you can see the actual crease. It's like shortly above the lashes, but the brow bone, it's kind of visible when you move to the light. And if you press the brush right under the brow bone, you can just kind of move the brush on that brow bone a little bit in, a little bit out. I go back and forth because otherwise I'm pulling the skin. As you can see, you don't want to do that. It's not going to make it even. So short strokes really help. and kind of try to bring it a little up and out, not like bringing it down. You can see the effect, how nicely it contoured my eye. And it's better to add more color to it afterwards rather than putting too much. I'm blending it in into that eyeshadow base. I want to make sure it will stay nicely. If you put too much of your eyeshadow base, you will see it immediately starting to crease. That happens with heavier texture like concealer, as I mentioned earlier. So in that case, just absorb a little bit with a Q-tip, and you get rid of the excess oils. So I'm doing the same on the other side. Kind of follow the brow bone. When you press against it, you can see it's almost like exactly the same line as the eyebrow goes. So it's not a straight line, it doesn't go all the way. It's mostly from the middle, a little out. When you press into it with your brush, you can feel it. Also angle the brush a little bit rather than trying to poke your eye this way. It might be a little uncomfortable, and it might spread the pigment more uneven. All right, so we can decide to finish right here with a little mascara, maybe a little bit of soft liner, but I wanted to teach you how to really give a little more depth and accentuate your eyes a little more. I'm going to use a color that it's a bit darker, so you will be able to see better that way. I picked up a brush that it's very firm, so it's a very, very short bristle. What that does really, it applies the pigment much more intense. It just deposits more pigment. But another thing is that where exactly to put that color on the outside of the eye, the darker color. If you look at the lash line on the bottom, it kind of goes up, and that's the same direction that you're gonna follow with your tiny little brush. It could be round as well. Mine, it's flat, but you can see very firm. Applies the pigment very intensely. So when you lift it up a little bit, you kind of feel like you reach the bone, and then you turn it a little in on the bone. Create a little V. So that's a pretty nice contour. Then you can keep blending, or just use your previous fluff brush to soften up the edges a little bit. Ta-da! All right, the eye already looks much more lifted and open. So we're gonna do exactly the same thing the other side. Follow that line. It's almost like following the direction towards the end of your brow. And if your eyebrows are not filled in like mine are permanent, I'll teach you how to do that shortly. So just a little lift. When you reach the bone, you kind of bring it in into that contour we put on earlier. So this color is dark enough for you to see because I'm not using a mirror, I'm using my phone, and it's not as well visible, but anyway. So everything should be just very quick, very short. Don't overuse pigment. You can always add more, much better, but you can see the difference in my eyes. We can intensify that contour color even a little more. If I grab that dark color that I just used and mix it with the medium color that I used earlier, I can just add a little more. Follow the brow bone. Try to be like very, very light-handed. All right. How about that? Doing the same thing on the other side. Just following that contour we already have. Did I do a little more on this side? Maybe I did. All right. If your eyes have that difference that most people don't really know about, but we all know. I mean, I know my eyes are a little different. Don't try to even that out. You accentuate the difference. It's better just to make, you know, each eye look perfect. So now it's time for an eyeliner, and not everybody's good with an eyeliner, so you don't have to do that. There is a trick that I love to do for a little more intensity. It's to put a nice waterproof pencil on the inside rim, on the top in the lashes root. So to do that, I'm gonna just absorb that water because anything waterproof repels water. So here we go. I'm gonna go a little bit on the lash line. This way will give me like thicker lash. It will just prepare the eye for the mascara. You can see how beautiful that looks. but it's important to dry it out a little bit with a Q-tip before that. Again, this is just something that I like to do. You don't have to. All right, we can go with a second coat after the first one dries. Again, this is a waterproof pencil. Well, this one definitely opens the eyes, and most importantly, doesn't show like makeupy. So let's say that we want to do a soft eyeliner. Soft eyeliner, I would go with a pencil. The secret about a pencil, this is just like a regular brown pencil with a smudger by Italian brand called Kiko. Easy to find. And you can see I'm going to angle the pencil. I'm not going to try to hold it because it's going to pull the skin to hold it straight 90 degrees towards the skin again. The same with the brushes. And I'm going to do little strokes just on the lash line. Going in. You can extend it as much as you want. If you lift up your chin towards your mirror, your eye is slit open, so you much easier can see and put your eyeliner on. Sometimes I just go directly for the lashes and kind of press in there just to feel how close to put the liner on. And then with the smudger, we can make it a soft liner. If your lids tend to get oily and your liner tends to move, just put a little bit of eyeshadow on top. All right. Another reason I like to put the pencil is because everybody who wants to have a perfect eyeliner and struggles with it, this will kind of give you that ease of, demarcation where you want to put your eyeliner afterwards. Again, you can see when you lift up the chin, your eye, it's slit open, easier to work. I think I'm doing okay, even though most of it I can't see very well. So I'm gonna use also the liquid liner. When your skin is more mature, and the gel tends to pull it, it's easier to use just a liquid liner with a brush. Also, if you have the gel, you need the brush. It's like two different things. You have to unscrew this and that. This is just like one and done. I like the Inkwell liner, but Kat Von D, it's long lasting and it's matte. It has a pretty nice brush too. So again, what I like to do, liquid liner won't pull your skin, so I think it's going to be easy for people that are less experienced. So again, I like to start from the outside. To create that wing, you want to follow that direction, again, up and out. It's pretty much the same line. If you want to mark that before that to show you just how the lash line kind of goes up. See, this way you would know where to put your wing, and you can make it as long as you want. I also hold the brush angled, and if you try to do it this way, it will be much harder, trust me. So the other way, you can turn it again and just go shortly on the lash line. Sometimes I put it on the lashes and just roll it up to finish it, but I find it easier when you do the outside first to bring it back in. You can see with short little dabs, I kind of complete my liner. Again, you can find your own comfortable position, but if you start with that end, lift it up a little, create that wing, and then with short strokes fill in. See, the liquid liner really doesn't pull the skin the way that a gel will. But that also can be a personal choice. Maybe I didn't do it so perfect on this side. Maybe you see it a little better than I do. Anyway, So the bottom liner should be a little lighter. You always want to open your eyes up, and you don't want it to drag them down and give you like sad face. A lot of the times the makeup smudges on the bottom, and the reason for that is because the skin, it's also warm, you know, not only thin, and will make things shift, you know, if you put too many layers. And this is kind of creamy, even though it will dry waterproof. So with the smudger on the other side, I'll basically make it smoother, but it will also take off that excess. You want to just have like a very, very, very thin layer of your pencil in there. And this way, the line on the bottom, it's softer, it opens your eyes more without giving you the heaviness. You can go a little more in. My eyes are very big, so I usually don't even do that. Anyway, if you want to make sure it will stay better and the pigment will be a little stronger and denser, it's press with an angle brush, press a little bit of eyeshadow in there. The same eyeshadow from the top, it could be lighter or darker, mixed together again. All right, well, the eyes look pretty much finished. Feel free to add any shimmer to it, any other color. Sometimes I put a little bit of warm color. I'll demonstrate that as well, just to kind of blend everything, make it all look like one, rather than putting a base color and then another color and another color. It's better to use just a little bit. This way you get into a routine that everything goes on faster. Nice. I think we got to the mascara. No special way to apply mascara. You find whatever you like. Usually the brush, it's the most important thing. So you can put as many layers as you want. This one happens to be just a nice Lancome mascara. Again, we're not talking about brands here. You use whatever you have at home. And to avoid smudging the mascara on top, again, you can see my chin, it's up, my eyes are slit open. This way I can push, and the more I apply, the more I curl the lashes up as the mascara is drying. So you can play and, you know, give yourself nice full lashes with a good mascara of your liking, without adding fake lashes on. So the eyes are pretty much done, but I want to go back to the eyebrows. And if you really struggle with your eyebrows, it's kind of easy to mark where the base of the brow is. You probably have hair there most than anywhere else. And you don't really want to go too much down. It will drag the eyes down. Kind of want to, you know, follow the natural brow bone. If you mark this end and this end, you know, this should kind of like have almost like a line. It shouldn't really go down too much. And then where the highest point of the eyebrow is, then you can just work it unconnected in between. I like on the ends that are usually a little more sparse and lighter, to go like with the side of the tip of the pencil just a little bit in the opposite direction, just to get a little bit of pigment on those little hairs in there and enough pigment under. And then with a little brush, I'm using a regular eyebrow pencil. Most brands have it. This one happens to be Brunette by MAC. Again, you can just go in the opposite direction at the end. And you know, if you mark the base, the top of the arch, in the end, you can just work it and fill in between. And this is the base of the brow. It should be a little larger than that part. And the shape you should determine with your eyebrow specialist. But it's like basically following the brow bone and the natural hairs that you have. So for the rest of the face, you don't have to use foundation. You can just dab a little concealer on the areas that you like and put a little bit of bronzer and powder. What I like to do is to accentuate my cheekbones and to make it in a natural way and also fast. We're talking about fast here. It's rather than spending time on contouring, you can highlight and still have the same effect. This one, it's something by Benefit. It's a matte highlighter. It's liquid. It's called Shy Beam. And put it just on the tip of the cheekbone, directly on your skin. You can blend it with your finger or a sponge. Again, sponges absorb a lot of your product, and it doesn't matter what kind of sponge you have. The only difference between sponges, it's the shape. So I'm gonna use just that you can see the brush flat to the skin, just the tip of it, just very lightly. This is a synthetic face brush, just a bigger than the one I used previously as a concealer brush. And we know those brushes don't absorb your product, so you don't waste any product. I know I blended it nicely. You can see that already gave me a little bit of like a contour effect. But what I like to also do is to conceal under my eyes. Um, Most people do foundation and then they add concealer. This is personal preference, so it depends on how much coverage you need. So if you're familiar with your face, it really doesn't matter what goes first. What I don't like to do, I don't like to put too much concealer on. And a lot of the times when people have like darker under the eye area, I use a medium warm color, usually more like peachy, salmony, for under the eyes to neutralize the blue in a solid formula. This is one of them. This is like a MAC solid formula. They come in different colors, so you can go to any makeup counter and have them match your color, but also use a little bit of darker underneath. The warmth of that darker color will basically not cover but neutralize the blue undertones. And then you can add a soft liquid, for not only more coverage and more pigment, but also it looks nicer because the liquid just kind of looks a little softer, and it lasts longer because you add a little extra layer in there. So this part of the under eye area is the skin that doesn't really move, and also you can see it needs the most coverage. This part is where the lines form. You want to be very, very light-handed there, and under the eyes you barely really need it. So I kind of go a little bit like that and fade it out. Then of course you can blend it with a sponge brush or your finger, whatever you like. I don't like to rub it because the moment you start to rub it, you start to take it off. I like to kind of like pat it in, give the skin a few seconds to absorb a little bit of that liquid. Here we go. So isn't that much, much, much better? And if you lift up your chin, you want to see how this one just goes like one color. You don't have dark line like this one in here. That's why it's so important to put it right in here and there. And you can almost see like a triangle shape that I connected my highlighter with my concealer. That's a perfect way to even out that area, play with the light a little bit. And if it's a little too much concealer, you can just blot it with a tissue a little bit. And that's better for people with dry skin because if you put powder in there, it will look cakey. If you just use a tissue, it will absorb the excess oil and will leave a fine layer of pigment. So on the rest of the face, I will show you a couple of different things. If you decide to go and do a contour, it's easy to do a creamy texture. It just looks nicer. And more natural. So I'm gonna use again my face brush and just a little bit of darker color. And I really don't think you have to go all the way out, as long as like on my face especially you can see the natural cheekbone and kind of like bring it a little in, blend it like that. Next to the highlighter, it already sculpted nicely, but also it faded into my natural cheekbone without me going all the way to the hairline. Because let's face it, you turn like that and you see that streak of line, it just doesn't look like a real face, real bone structure. So basically you want to do just a little bit like that. And your makeup can be done here with just a little bit of loose powder or sheer powder. I like a little more coverage. The oils on my skin sip throughout the day. So for that, I really need a stronger, like a waterproof formula. And I like to use translucent powder. Transparent can still have a little color, so the translucent one, because your oil has color. So if your skin is like mine, the oil will darken that powder even more, so your skin will look uneven. And another thing that you should notice about lighter skin tones is that you can see the skin on the outside perimeter. It's kind of the same as the neck, but the center is the one that is discolored. So you should always match that skin here, because when we cover that, we want everything to be one color. You don't want to put something that it's too light either, because it's just gonna look pasty. And that's kind of outdated look that makes you look old. Anything outdated makes you look old. Um, so let's continue with like a heavier consistency foundation, the kind of that I like. This one, that just happens to be cream to powder that I have available here by CoverGirl. It has a sponge, and you can apply it with a brush or with a sponge. Again, the difference between this sponge and another sponge, it's just the shape. So I'm gonna go lightly just around the areas, the concealer, and you can see almost like fading it towards the perimeter of my face. And if I wanna have a little more pigment on certain areas, I don't have to use my concealer. This is in general. When you don't have concealer, you can just use a concealer brush, the same foundation that you're using, and just put it on the areas to deposit a little more pigment. This is when you have less products, less time. Everything should go in one direction. The moment you start to rub things in every direction and rubbing it, you kind of start to take it off, because rubbing and rubbing and rubbing, at one point you're applying it, then removing it, applying and removing it. So the faster you kind of do that, and you do area by area. You don't want to like go all over it and keep blending, and little by little, started usually the forehead and then go down. Doesn't really matter. I always compare makeup to cooking, because you spice it up the way you like it, and the intensity and the colors all depends on you, your timing, your lifestyle, and the things that you can do with makeup. I also teach people a lot and tell them, if you just want to do something quick, use those 3, 4, 5, 6 products that you have. Keep them separate, and don't keep them with everything you own, because it's a waste of time to dig just for those products that you're going to use for those 5 minutes you have in the morning to put on your makeup. So I think I just want to finish with a little bit of powder. I'm going to use face brush, double bristle, flat, so this way I can make my makeup a little longer lasting, and basically press it into that makeup. You can just do the T-zone, the areas that are shiny. On my face it happens to be everywhere. And if your skin is dry, just use liquid foundation instead. And a lot of the times you can skip the powder. Maybe just use it for touch-ups throughout the day. Right. Nicely in there. Everything creamy goes before powder. That's kind of one rule, I would say. And sometimes I use a little bit of cream blush under, which kind of sips through the foundation, and it looks like a natural flush when you know that you get red easily and you don't want to put blush, or you just struggle with it. This time I only used a little bit of highlighter and contour, which is very soft, very easy. Again, you can intensify that with a little bit of bronzer. And if we're gonna use a bronzer and a blush, I would say start with a bronzer. The bronzer is kind of hard that it evens out the skin, makes it either like contour or just sun touched. So with bronzer you cannot go wrong, really. You can put as much as you want. So I'm using something that it's a little old, but I really like. It's by Laura Geller. It doesn't really have shimmer. It's a very subtle sheen. So basically on the skin looks like skin. It doesn't look too matte, which is too dry looking, or it doesn't look too shimmery, which doesn't look natural. So with the I'm using a brush that it's angled and fluffy. Of course, the brush can be any brush of your choice, because I kind of like to go over that contour and bring it a little up, put it a little bit on my nose. You know how the sun will touch your skin, usually the highest parts of your face, like that. So it makes you like a little suntan. And I like to put a little bit under my chin, under the jawline right here, for a little lift. Maybe just a little bit on my neck to slim it if I need to. And then the perimeter a little bit, kind of even everything out. A little bit up on the temples here for a little extra lift. Again, with bronzer you can go as heavy as you want. You're only gonna look a little more sun-kissed. And fluffy, bigger brushes apply the pigment much softer, so I recommend like a larger head brush. So now I'm gonna use a little bit of blush. This one happens to be just a nice peachy rosy by Charlotte Tilbury. The name, it's called Love is the Drug. Also, what you don't want to do, you don't want to put too much blush on your brush and then try to blend it. It's better to use just very little. Mark the area of the blush, then you can add more. You can see that as you speak, you know, your face kind of moves. So you don't want to go with the blush too high, and it will accentuate those fine lines that show up here when you smile. So, you know, you can smile to put it on and kind of grab that apple of the cheek a little bit and try to lift it up and fade it into that contour. Again, you don't want to do it too much because it's going to look like a streak. Everybody looks at your face from each side, so nobody really looks at your face the way you do in straight ahead in front of the mirror. So always consider that. Always consider that when you put your face makeup, you know, how you end up around here, you know, the jawline, and kind of fade it towards the hairline. So this is it pretty much. I also, you can see, kind of like angle the brush. It's easy because the moment you start to do this, you deposit pigment in certain area. And another thing I wanted to tell you about a blush, it's that it doesn't go nicely on bare skin unless it's a cream formula. So if you try to put a blush on your skin without having anything on, it will never look even and nice and smooth. You can either mix it with a little powder or put a little bit of like a primer, but definitely not on bare skin unless it's a cream formula, which looks also very nice. So I do have a little bit of highlighter on. Sorry, I'm looking for my other highlighter. But, you know, I want to intensify it. So I'm going to use a little bit of shimmery highlighter. This one happens to be by Fenty Beauty. You can see it. And the tip of the cheekbone, basically how to determine where to put that. Again, I didn't tell you earlier. It's the light kind of hits your face right in here, right? The light comes from the top usually. And this is the highest part of your cheekbone. This is where you want to put your highlighter. So because I already have a little bit of highlighter under, that will kind of make it even stronger. And if you don't have highlighter, it's just you're gonna finish with a nice sculpted cheekbone. You can see how subtle everything is. All right, so I think I'm gonna go towards my lips now. You can just do a quick lip gloss and be done. A lot of people like their lipstick to last, so if you don't have a long-lasting formula, or because you don't like it because it's drying, you can use a lip liner for that. I like to put the lipstick first and then the lip liner, because this one, it's a very, very nice formula. Sheer lipstick by NARS. And the pencil, it's similar, it's very natural. It's called Hover by MAC. And you can see I use it sideways, so it doesn't give me that fake looking line that just kind of ages you. It's too outdated. This way, I add a little more pigment. I contour my lips nicely, but also it goes on easily because we have lipstick on before that. If you try to hold it like that, straight 90 degrees towards the skin, it's really, really hard to apply it evenly. So always angle it. Angle it and try to follow the natural contour, or just the way you like to contour your lips. There's so many ways of keeping your lipstick on longer. You can use a lipstick primer if that's easier for you. I'm gonna use my powder brush, and I'm just gonna tuck my lip together and powder a little bit around it. That also works miracles. All right, expect more videos from me. I hope I'll be able to answer a lot of questions and teach you a lot more tricks. Bye.